med en kvart först, kanske inte så länge, men bara fråga dem lite grann och berätta lite om vad som händer framöver i acceleratorn. Ja.
Okay.
Folk brukar komma in lite grann efterhand också. Här.
And everything in English, of course.
Yeah. Hope you've been informed about that.
Ja, det är min första språk så det är nog bättre.
Great.
Good morning. We got Daniel with us from Locally and Felicia from Mood Social so far.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Funkar det med svenska än så länge?
Ja, precis. Ska vi se. Vi ska se vad vi ska. So should we start because the recording is running, so we will start the session.
Yeah, let's do that. And people are coming in and out, of course, and we're recording it so they can watch it afterwards as we put it up on our platform. So welcome.
Welcome,
Daniel and Felicia.
Yeah.
Busy today.
Exactly. So welcome to this session. The first part, we will talk about regulatory conditions for startups, including CE marking and MDR. So that will be exciting with our expert guest here today.
Yeah. And the second part, we'll talk about the platform, information security, what are the requirements in terms of hosting, GDPR, cybersecurity, and so on and so forth. So this session today is actually going to have two parts. And we'll start with our guest here, Sushrut, is that correct? Did I pronounce your name?
Yes, that was perfect.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then at 10 o'clock, Erika Malmberg is going to join us as well and talk about the GDPR part from Integrity.
Yeah. So first, some housekeeping stuff quickly. Both Erika and Sushrut here are available for 1 hour consultancy based on your individual needs. And you can book that tomorrow and next day with Sushrut here on the link that Dasha has sent you. And the second part is you can also book with Erika if you want to and if you need to, based on what she's saying today. And you will do that directly on her webpage where she has her calendar. But we will send you the link when she speaks so that you know. So that's the plan. So this is this is the introduction, general introduction, and then you have opportunity for your individual needs based on that.
And I think the compliance part, it's very interesting. It looks boring. We had a couple of startups that no, we don't need it. Okay, you can think that, but it's not really up to you if you need it or not, or if you actually fall under the MDR regulative. It's very important to have a check on that.
Yeah.
So I'd say this is one of the most important sessions actually in the program.
Yeah. So we would like to, and just have some quick questions for
Demo Day. So we heard that I think it's 8 companies now in total that have signed up for Demo Day. Stefan is going to walk you through all the details about the booking and the traveling and all that stuff. But first I can just quickly tell you a little about the event itself. So the event will be at the Rebel. It's an innovation house in Oslo. So we actually going to pitch there on the top floor. And it's going to start with a networking session where we network with the investors for half an hour. And then you can have a couple of investors who will talk and give us a few insights on health tech, funding and stuff like that. And then around 5 o'clock, we're going to start the pitching sessions. And the rules are that you have 5 minutes each to actually pitch. And then you have 2 minutes with Q&A.
From the investor panel.
From the investor panel. And there will be up to 6 investors in the panel who will actually ask the questions. And then you will, of course, have an audience as well with investors, which is an additional 100 in the place. And then we have digital broadcasting. So we will also have investors with us from all over the world who will watch it as well, but they won't interact, they will just listen.
Yeah. So, and to be clear, we're going to have a timer clicking down from 5 minutes down to 0, so you can see that you follow this, because there's no time for talking more than 5 minutes. We will cut you off.
Hardcore.
Because yeah, it's just the way it is.
So please practice and make sure that you finish on time.
Yeah,
very important.
Yeah. And if you finish in 4 minutes, that's fine. You will get
Even
1
better.
minute more for questions.
Exactly.
So yeah. And
then after the pitching, we will have a networking session. We'll have an open bar, in fact. And experience tells that that's pretty much where it happens. So what happens then is that you will put your roll up in one side of the area, so the investors can come to you and chat with you throughout the night. So I think it's very, very important that you actually stay around after the pitching sessions, because it's very important to interact.
Yeah, as much as possible, and please be active here. And yeah, it's an art to mingle, but it's something you have to learn basically. So please use this opportunity. And the goal is always to build a relationship and to get a next meeting, so to speak. So the investment never happens in this during this time, so to speak. It's a thing that you need to work on later.
Stefan, you want to brief them about the details of the travel and the hotel and stuff like that?
Yeah, and we booked Thun Hotel Munch. It's 4 minutes from the venue, from Rebel. So it should be easy for you to just walk here between. Everybody will be staying at the same hotel, as we know from now. So we will send out information about the check-in and stuff like that, practical reasons. And the travel and the transport, you will fix that by yourself. We recommend you to take a train if possible, of course, and we will pay you for the tickets. But most of you have already been doing this, so it's on its way. Yeah. So I think that's the practical stuff regarding that.
So shall we hand over to our expert of MDR and medical device regulation, CE, and that world? Let's open the door. Welcome, Sush.
Hello, nice to be here today. I was wondering if you could have a short round of introduction from the people attending, just to say hello to.
Let's do that.
We could have, and we can actually just ask them if they want to just have a comment on if they know if they are under directive or not.
Let's do that. Let's start with SARP, for example. Here, I see that SARP is with us from BNX. Let us know if you think that you fall under the MDR regulative, and if yes or no. And also, the second question is: have you made any reflections on your information security? These are the two questions. SARP, do you want to have a go?
Sure. Actually, I can jump in instead
thanks,
of SARP. No problem, SARP. We looked at the regulation in different countries, and depending on how we use and what we do, it looks like we might fall under the regulation in some countries regarding maybe a class 2A, but we're not sure because it's a little bit obscure to find the information on digital applications. So that's why we were excited about this session as well. And for security, we haven't, we know we have a certain amount of security, but we are not sure if we need to add additional levels. But we are using Amazon servers, as we talked about it in some previous sessions. So they have their own security, but data fragmentation and other stuff, we haven't really gone into it. We had other priorities, let's say.
Yeah. I think the hosting part is quite important as well, because it's all countries have different ways of doing that. Rika is going to talk about that at 10 o'clock. But for example, AVS doesn't necessarily work in all countries. Europe and Sweden, it's quite hard where you're going to host your data. They want it to be in data centers in Sweden, owned by Swedish companies, so or at least a European Union company. But these are aspects we're going to discuss in a little while. So, do you want to take a quick intro on Baynex, what you guys do for SUSH? Just 2 lines on what you do in Baynex.
Go ahead, Sab.
Sorry, guys, the Teams just got frozen. So what we do is we have a brain health app designed to extend our users' brain health span. How we do it is we offer them cognitive gamified tests to continuously track their cognitive health. And on top of that, with our AI coach, we analyze their data and their daily habits. So through that, we offer them guidance on their lifestyle choices in mainly 5 categories, which is highly related to metabolic health. So we are at the intersection of metabolic and cognitive health to improve our users, of course, as I mentioned, brain health span. In general, this is what we do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Daniel at Looply. And
yes,
could you give a quick introduction and also your perspective on the MDR regulation and the information security on your end?
yeah, of course. Okay, so we are in a position where we are not obligated at this point to have it because it's an SaaS product who is supporting video calls from elderly and their relatives, but it prohibits the care, which means that we are trying to lower the pressure on the elder care homes and activities through our service. But we are looking into making the product a care product for the home care and for the elder care homes. So in that position, we are interested in this type of information. Due to these facts, we have a security level of just being able to be legally fitted to have a private consumer GDPR compliance. So it's pretty, yeah, it's much easier, of course, than a B2B version. But it's interesting for us going forward.
You want to say a few words on the startup as well?
Yeah, so it's a easy to use video call communication service for elderly and disabled people. But it's mainly between these people and their relatives. So, but by being able to do this video call by themselves, it lowers the pressure on the elder care, and the personnel can use that time for more qualified tasks.
Yeah.
So it's a proactive care, actually.
So and that's the reason why the public sector, the municipalities or regions actually buy this service, or the elderly cares can buy it, but also the relatives and other.
Of course, yeah.
Can buy it as well. So you have both this part of your business model. Yeah. Yes, and Felicia said in the chat here she has no relationship to MDR, so we'll sit this one out. Do you want to compliment, say anything about the information security or anything else, Felicia, or you can just follow along? It's no problem.
I'll just follow on for today. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So for the one not here, we can say that all the other companies are different kinds of health tech companies, most focused on the B2G side, but also some B2B and some companies have B2C as well. And they are not extremely early, but have at least a product out there that can be sold. So it's quite early from that perspective. So just to give you a general overview of the other 8 companies. Yeah.
Okay.
I just also wanted to add really quickly that our startup Healthy Longer also wanted to have an MDR session, but they wrote to me that they cannot sadly join this session because they're traveling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So we hand over to you, Sos.
Perfect. I can share some slides in the meantime. Let me know if you see my screen.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
You see the slides or yourselves?
No,
Because
we see the screen, so it's perfect.
Nice, great. Okay, so let's do a short introduction to CE marking and what it is, if you need it, or if you just want to have it for information for the future. So today I can talk about really briefly about our organization, Shortcut MedTech, what the MDR is, what a medical device is, and where the borderline lies from health app to medical device, CE marking, classification of a device. I guess BNX would benefit from that here to know what kind of risk class you fall under. And then we have, with the new law, we have notified bodies that audit you if you're above a class 2A. So we talk about that and the costs involved. And if we have some time later, we can go through the basics of a clinical evaluation, which is the scientific basis for doing making a medical device. So about Shortcut MedTech, we were actually Careful Applications, and we were bought by an app agency called Shortcut. It's one of Scandinavia's largest app agency, founded in Norway in 2007. And we're the MedTech branch of it. And we've been ISO certified, and we actually have a medical device of our own, which is launched in 20 countries with AbbVie. So we've had quite a long experience with regulations in different countries, and that's where our expertise lies in. And it's a digital device, so I guess that's our niche. We work with software and regulations for software. These are some of our clients. 2 of them are international, and the rest are all Swedish. I guess we worked with a client called Mindmore, which also offered cognitive testing, and they work with the government as well. So perhaps it could be good for you, BNX, to connect with them or learn from them and see what they do and how they do things. The rest is mixed startups. They're all digital and in Sweden. About me, so I moved to Sweden in 2015. And just as you were, I had a health tech startup called Endometrics. It was an app for people who had endometriosis. And I got into regulations in around 2018 because I took up that task myself, and we didn't really have money to pay a consultant. So it was mostly, you sweat it out yourself when you have a startup. And that's where I got into CE marking, and I found that it was quite interesting to work with. Very boring and dry subject, but when you apply the agileness of software, you can make something quite practical out of it. I also make apple juice. So every season, I have a musteri in my backyard, and people come to me with the apples, and I make apple juice seasonally. So I guess that's me. I work with regulations, and I make juice. Yes, I guess we went through this question before. It was about your experience with CE marking and the medical device regulation, and I heard a few perspectives, so we skipped this question. And I go on to what the medical device regulation is. So this was, it actually became a law from a directive in 2017. And the reason for this was because there were a lot of incidents where people found that medical devices weren't safe and efficient. It was actually because of a breast implant that exploded. And that's when the European Commission decided that we need a law so that the devices we have are safe and efficient to use, and they're protected, and people who use them are protected. And that's why we have the MDR. It's a super long, boring law of 175 pages and a lot of information. But you don't need to read it yourself because you have people like me who like to do that. So, however, there are some faults with the law because they classify the classification for medical devices. Sometimes a wheelchair might be the same as a mobile application, and they don't really see the practicality of, especially in software development. It's so agile and it happens so often. You release updates often, but sometimes a medical device regulation, they expect you to have a blueprint like they do for a stethoscope or a wheelchair and stick to that kind of process. But there are ways around it, or there are ways you can make it more practical and applicable to yourself. Yes. So what is considered a medical app? Now, if you use the software for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, prediction, prognosis, treatment, alleviation of disease, injury, or ailment, it's considered medical. Now, to put that into common terms, perhaps if your app has a medical purpose. Now, let's take, for example, the case with BNX. You could say that there could be one way where you say that, yes, this app is more for mindfulness and for just being healthy and not at all for a medical purpose. But that could be on the edge because from what I heard from you, you do have a lot of cognitive tests that you do, which are perhaps recognized cognitive tests. So you would be considered a medical app in that case. But perhaps, would you like to say something here, BNX, of how you thought is your rationalization or what your arguments were for being a medical app? Was it Anis and Sarp who were a part of BNX?
Yeah, both are part of.
So I was wondering if you could say a few words.
I'm kind of having trouble with Teams at the moment, but I guess you can hear me, right?
Yeah,
yes. So the assessment SARP talks about are games that our neurologists and cognitive psychologists have created. So you play games and we say that, okay, your memory is okay. Your flexibility is above average. That kind of like in our one-to-one, I can show you more about the games, but they are simple games. But what we use the output is, of course, a measurement of cognition abilities. So that's where it gets tricky, and we don't say that we diagnose anything, and we try to tread that line between wellness and healthcare. We say like, okay, with the lifestyle suggestions that we give you, your you might help yourself increase your brain longevity. Currently, we are at this point. Once we have the resources, we want to get a medical device certificate, but until that time, it's kind of tricky.
Yeah, I understand. But I guess it's good to start building for being a medical device in the future, if that is your vision.
Yeah.
And if you do use cognitive, the tests that you use, have they been studied widely?
No, they are self-created tests, but we did clinical research in comparison with widely used tests to show correlation. But other than that, only we use them.
Okay. I guess it could be good to look at two companies here. One of them is called Mendi, MENDI, and the other one was one of our client called MindMore. Because MindMore, they use cognitive tests for the purpose of diagnosis and monitoring. So they are definitely a medical device and as a class 2A. Mendy, they claim to promote brain health, but I recently saw that they also are looking into CE marking. So if you have a look at the journey both of them are going through, you can, sort of, and they're both in Europe, so it's good to follow them and see which path they're going down.
When I look up Mendy, it shows like a brain, like a headset that
Exactly.
you put on. Yeah. Okay, so there's an actual device.
Yeah, they have an actual device, but I don't know if their app or the device is CE marked. I haven't really gone through them.
Okay.
But their claims were kind of similar to yours of promoting brain health.
And they were required to get medical device. Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, and I guess we can talk about that as well. It's not when you say a requirement, it's really based on the size of your company and how many people are using your app. Because if you don't have a CE mark and you have maybe 100,000 users and you have maybe 10 incidents where people think that they have dementia, you get a prediction from your app saying that your memory is not good, go to a clinic, and they interpret it as having dementia and they get stressed and something else happens because of that, then you could be liable as that's considered an incident. So the real reason to have a CE mark is to protect yourself from these incidents, or at least have things in place that help you deal with these incidents if they happen or prevent them.
Okay.
So it's a safety thing, but it's also dependent on the resources you have, because it does cost money to get one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go on to the next slide and just stop me whenever you like to discuss. I guess you're the only medical company here, so we can take you as an example, and you get help from this session as well. Yes, as I mentioned, when you get the CE mark, it tells the user that your product is safe, efficient, reliable, and that you have taken a responsibility on yourself to follow these rules and regulations. And you can also market it anywhere in Europe. And we actually have one of our devices as well. If I wasn't, I guess Dasha sent me some information. Baynex, you were from Turkey originally? Was I mistaken?
Yes, the team is in Turkey, but our headquarters and company and IP rights, everything is in Estonia.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because we have one of our medical devices, SSY Engine, and we're about to launch it in Turkey. And if you have a CE mark, then it's much easier to get into the Turkish regulations there.
Yeah.
So that's another benefit of having a CE mark. There are also some overlaps between the UKCA, which is now the British regulation, and the FDA. Not completely, but there are things like the risk analysis and some overlapping bits. So how do you CE mark? Yes. So let's take it into two perspectives. One is your product and the other is your company. So as a company, you need to have something called a quality management system. And that means that you take responsibility for being a company that produces medical devices. So you technically, when you build a quality management system, as a whole company, you have a process. This is how we would build a medical device. And as a product, you need a technical file, which is the blueprint of how you build your product. And that includes the studies you've done. It includes the actual diagrams and technical specifications of your software. And it includes a thorough risk analysis of all the risks and things that you consider in your product. Yes, so this is what a quality management system looks like. It looks like the first bit is about the management team and how you continuously follow up on your management processes, the resources that you need internally and externally. So you have strong supplier evaluations and you have a good understanding about the job descriptions when you hire people. You also have a design and development process. So I guess that is quite standard. So you say that in our design phase, we first have an idea, we make a prototype, and then a set rule for how you develop. And there you can get a little more technical and say, okay, this is how we branch things and merge back the code, etc. And you also have, once you've launched, you have a process for how you continuously follow up your product when it's launched through customer feedback, or if there is an incident and someone gets hurt from using your device, or suffers from a temporary injury, what do you do, and what is the level when you need to recall your product? I can give you an example here. So one of our clients, they had cognitive testing, and they keep monitoring if there is a risk for patients to do a test and find out that they have early signs of dementia or they're suicidal. So it's good to have these fail-safe mechanisms in place to stop incidents that happen, or at least inform doctors. And then you have a few general processes, basically. So that's a quality management system. It's how you run your company. And then you have a technical file. Let's take the things on the top: the description of the device, the risk management file, and the clinical evaluation file. So the description of the device is how it's your blueprint for your product, what risk class you are, your justifications for being that risk class. If you are a medical device, your justification for being a medical device, and information like who to contact and address and those kind of things. Your risk management file, I don't know if you have experience with risk management, but to put it shortly, you go through potential hazardous situations that users could come into by using your device, and you risk assess these. You decide, okay, this level of risk is acceptable and this is unacceptable. And depending on what you'd like to talk about for your session, next we could either take risk management or clinical evaluation. No, I mean, it's up to you. So we dig further into them. Your clinical evaluation file would be something like the studies that you have done or the literature that you have collected to show that your device is safe to use and it actually shows clinical benefit. So that's what your clinical evaluation file would be. The documents at the bottom, that's just user guide or instructions for use. Then a paper that says that I conform to the medical device regulation, and a checklist that you mark out saying, yes, these things are, it's called the general safety and performance checklist. Yes. Okay, so all of that was a lot of information, but let's take it let's take your example as well. It begins with a really clear intended purpose. An intended purpose answers 3 questions. 1, what is the app? 2, who will use it and who will benefit from it? And the third is why. So it's quite a good way to take this as an example. So I was wondering if you could unmute yourselves and talk more about your app again. So we go through the what, the for who, and the why.
The app, the what is a cognitive wellness coach currently. Who will use it and who will it benefit? People between the ages of 45 to 65. Why? Because in the current order, the lifestyles and the working conditions, people often focus on physical well-being, mental well-being, but not cognitive well-being. So, but cognition is essentially your freedom, and you have to start investing into it early on to have a really impact on the cognitive state you will have in your 70s or 80s. So that's why people will use it to stay healthier longer if they can. So we try to facilitate this. We don't actually claim to decrease risk of dementia, but because we don't have a CE certificate, but we claim to guide and help people achieve this longevity on their own.
Nice. Oh, wow, it's super nice.
Thank
And
you.
I guess it's super needed as well. But that's quite a good, clear, intended purpose. What, who use it, and why. I guess the other thing is when you look at the why, that's what would put you into, because right now, as at least my opinion is that you're on the edge of medical and wellness, but you
Yeah.
still go into the medical a bit.
Okay.
But again, this is something you can argue yourself for by answering the question why and the claims that you use in your application. So if you just say it's for overall health and well-being, that's one. But if you're using tests and you've done studies that compare them with current clinical tests,
Yeah.
then I mean, it might be a little harder for you to get. It might be a longer road, but it's definitely more worth it if you do get a CE mark.
Yeah.
Because-
It's a constant internal discussion that we keep having.
Yeah, I guess it's the third question here that would really answer it. You have, I mean, because why do you have clinical benefit from using your app? If people use their app, are they monitoring their brain health or cognitive health? Will that information be used for any medical purpose? That's the real essence of it.
On its own, I don't think so, because you can't go to a diagnosis with just bad scores in our assessments. You have to go to a doctor, have additional tests, determine the cause. But like a lot of things can initiate cognitive decline. It can be temporary, it can be lasting, but we only measure your daily performance, and we stack that data so that you get your baseline, so you can be aware of any changes to that.
Okay.
But for example, somebody, I'm giving totally random numbers. So somebody that's 50 years old, person X, can have a score of 50 in memory, and another person Y, who is also 50-year-old, can have a score of 70. And they keep using our app and they keep getting the same score. So they are both stable. So we don't differentiate like, okay, you're 50, but you have been getting 50 for the last 4 months. So you, go see a doctor. We don't do this. We only, we don't even show the alert. We can, but we don't show the alert to go to see a medical professional. We just present their data to them. Okay, you were 50, you're now 40, and that's where we stop. That's when we initially started looking into the medical device regulations, because it's within our capability to say, okay, you've dropped to 40, go see a professional. But from what we understood from the regulation was that if we said, okay, you're dropping, go to a doctor, then we would need a certificate.
Yeah, or at least to comply with the MDR.
Yeah.
And
so,
what do you see as your future vision for the product? Because that could be good to take into account as well. Do you see a medical purpose in the future?
Yeah, definitely. Like in 2 to 3 years, we plan on getting the medical device certificate. and that opens up a whole new set of possibilities for us, because with that we can go to medical professionals. We can actually use our users' data as a patient history if they develop a mental cognitive disease. So that just opens up a whole set of possibilities for us. But like I mentioned, currently we don't have the time or the resources to go that way.
Okay. Nice. But I mean, perhaps we can do something. Let me think a bit about it. Because when we come to classification examples, there could be an argument that we could make to make you a lower class device.
Okay.
Yes, it's there in the next slide, I believe. Okay, yeah, risk classification. So when you have your intended purpose in mind, and you take that against the classification rule in the guidance document. Now, if you're a class 1 device, you give yourself a CE mark. You don't need to be audited by a notified body, and that saves you a lot of money. But if you're a class 2A, 2B, and 3, then you need to be audited by a notified body. So I guess the next page is what the rule actually is. It's a lot of text, but the basis of this text is that the higher risk your device holds to someone using it, the higher your class. So class 1 is the lowest risk, where, I mean, using your device, there could be almost no injury to you, or there'd be very little, some inconvenience. Whereas a class 3, if something went wrong, you could die from using it. So that's the scale. And that's the reason you have this rule and the classification. And if you're looking at your company as health for brain, then we need to see what kind of risk class it falls under. So I'm going to give you a few classification examples. Sorry, my child is a little bit sick. Could you excuse? I'm just going to mute you. The poor kid had a fever today, so he's at home. Yes. So let's go through 4 different examples for classification, and perhaps this gives you a better idea on where your device stands. A software intended to support conception that's using a fertility status based on statistical analyses. Software that's used to rank therapeutic suggestions for healthcare professionals based on patient history, imaging, and test results. So perhaps that's like looking at an MRI scan and giving you suggestions. Diagnostic software used for scoring depression based on input data, mood, anxiety, etc. And you have software used to perform diagnosis by means of image analysis for patients with an acute stroke. Now you see the risk is slowly getting higher as you go down. So I'm going to see what the answers say. Now, if you're just using an app to support conception based on users' fertility status, unfortunately, that's the only one which is a class 1 device. So something along those lines. And I guess Paynex, we could argue that you have something there because you're not making a diagnosis. You're not.
Yeah.
So at least in the very beginning, you could be there and you don't have to go through a notified body, and you could still reach your vision of being a medical device software. And then as you add more tests or make better predictions, you go up in class.
Yeah.
The next one, if you're ranking therapeutic decisions, but still it's the healthcare professional that is going to give you these suggestions, you're a class 2A. Now, depression scoring based on patient's data. That is that your software itself is telling this patient if the patient is depressed. Based on the scores, it becomes a class 2B because depression is higher risk. But if the doctor was scoring the depression based on your software, it would be a class 2A. So if it is not your software that's making the decision but the doctor, then you're a lower risk class. And if there's no decision, you're just supporting by providing patients the data, then you're the lowest risk class, which is class 1. And again, as you see, if there's something for something as intense as a heavy stroke, as an acute stroke, you're a class 3. So I'm going to send you these slides later, but it's good to look at this document in the bottom. It's called the guidance document on qualification and classification of software, because then you can think and reflect on your device and where you would like to fall in if you'd like to be a medical device.
So from Vaynak's point of view, if we only measure, for example, memory and flexibility of our users and just present this data to a healthcare professional to do whatever with it, it's considered class 1.
I mean, if you present it to a healthcare professional, then it's probably a higher class.
Yeah.
But if it's just for the user, you could be a class 1.
Okay. And
Because
if the user gives it to his or her doctor, it's still.
I guess there is argument as well, because what could the worst case scenario be from using this? And if any of these scenarios involve that the patient is getting injured and needs medical attention, then you should be a class 2. But if from these tests nothing really can happen from them,
Yeah, nothing can happen. The maximum that can happen is that the doctor looks at the data, he asks for additional tests to determine the cause, and he doesn't find anything, so he says you're fine.
okay. What if the patient uses this for a really long time and there's a severe decline in memory and they think it's okay because, I don't know, the patient, like the absolute worst case, and they do nothing to treat this? Wouldn't that be quite severe?
But would that be due to using our app, or if they weren't using our app and their memory declined and they didn't go to a doctor, wouldn't that be the same thing?
Yeah, it would, but there's something called the deliberate misuse, or say that unintentional. If the patient doesn't know how to use your device, they say, oh, I'm using this for my brain health, maybe I'll get better from using it. But they don't get better, and because of that, they think they don't seek attention either. So I mean, it's very remote that this could happen, but that's something you need to think about in a risk analysis.
May I also add something? So if our claims doesn't, say any of those, they should use it in such way, or maybe we do a great disclaimer. So would it protect us, because it's all about the doctor's interpretation and we have nothing to do with that? So it's just between the relationship of user and its doctor.
Yeah, the disclaimer is good. It's also, you should also put in things in your application. So like texts, warning texts, etc.
Yeah,
because
so
that really protects you.
If it's easy to see for the users that we have such disclaimers, so we would have no responsibility, right?
You'd have less response, yeah.
Less, okay.
And
because
then
there have been times. Okay.
There have been
because
times.
There have been times people ask for medical advice from us, and we always reply to them like, we are not a medical device, we are not medical professionals, ask your doctor.
Yeah, that's good as well. But I mean, we have a session booked, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
That's good. So I think we could make a plan. Maybe you don't have to get the CE marking now, but you plan in your vision for over the next 3 years how you work towards it.
Okay.
Because at least then you know that, okay, this device is safe. And I mean, if it does help patients that much, wouldn't it help more patients if it is a medical device? And wouldn't your chances for success be greater if you have They're just questions to consider. Nice. So the roadmap to getting a CE device, this is usually how we work. If a client has a product or they're building a product, we go in and we work with them, and if they're a class 1, we can build the documentation in 3 to 6 months, and we set up processes that work around processes they already have, the way they work. So you have a custom-made technical file and quality management system, and you give yourself the CE mark. If you are a class 2A, 2B, or 3 device, it's again the 3 to 6 months to prepare. You book a time with the notified body. Right now, it's not so long waiting times because they've extended a deadline. So they're actually interested in people applying to them. You do an audit, 2 audits in the first year, and then you have 1 audit every year after that to follow up after you get the CE mark. And in our experience, it's worked well for companies that work with us. There's always a few comments because they're people even more nerdy than I am there who do these audits. So they do find things, but they're all really minor things that you change and you get the CE mark eventually.
Just a quick question. One of those questions that we get a lot is, and I know this is impossible to answer, but so how much does this cost? You know, that's.
Yes, I have the next page is about the costs.
You know, can you give some indications of what it usually is the cost for a company so that they can plan this in their budget if they want to?
Yes, I have it on the next page, so you see the numbers.
Perfect.
It's based on the quotes that we've got.
Yeah.
And nobody shares them, but I mean, it's nice to know. Yes, how much does it cost?
Perfect.
So our services for CE marking or any consultant, that's the average between 200 and 300,000 SEK. For the sake of, I don't know, simplicity, I guess you could just take 1 0 away and make it euros. I guess it's around that much in euros without 1 0. A notified body, yes. Now that is really dependent. It costs less if the notified body is in the same country as you, because then you don't have to pay their travel costs. But that's the approximate cost for a class 2A device. That's software. Now it could be more if it's a software with say an app like a watch tracking. The more things you have, the more it costs. But this is for a pure software with no accessories. So that's the range. If it's 500,000 if the notified body is in Sweden and the company is in Sweden, and it costs a little bit more if the notified body is traveling from Germany, which is often the case. It's also good to know that 80% of this cost is in the first year, and then the rest is over the next 5 years where you have to pay for the follow-up audits. So you have 1 audit every year. Another thing that you could do if you are on a budget, and this is super beneficial, you can get a certificate for ISO 13485, which costs much less, and you still follow up on one of the big requirements of the MDR, because then you become a manufacturer of a medical device, and it gives you some sort of stamp that, okay, I've really looked into what I'm doing. And perhaps the region, I don't know about this, but it's more likely that you might get into it because one of our clients, they did that, and they work with a lot of regions. So they have they got an ISO 13485 certificate before they got the CE mark. Any questions here?
Yeah, we got Enes.
Yeah. We were also looking into IS 27001 and 27701.
That's for cybersecurity.
Since we are a digital tool, would it make sense if we got those, or since we don't have a device, 13,485 seems.
But your
unnecessary.
your software is a device, and you have to follow 13485 to, you know, for the MDR.
Okay. Okay.
So I guess that's the confusion. Your software is the device.
Okay.
About those conditions, the cyber security, I guess the person speaking after me is far more qualified to give an opinion on that.
Thank you.
I think we have it. It's at 3 minutes, right?
Yep.
Nice. Let's see what we have. Okay. So if you do plan to get a CE mark in the next 3 years, I guess this is a good step-by-step process of what you should do. Maybe you can ignore step 1 because that's mostly sales for me. But gather literature, work risk-based. Every decision, every feature, think about how it could affect people, how it could be misunderstood, and document your processes, whatever the processes are, how you hire people, how you manage your company. And this will, in the end, it helps you build a quality management system. So yes, this was all from me. The next one is just questions, if you have any.
Yeah, thank you. This was a great overview of both C and MDR, I think. And of course, you have to dig into it, but it was really good to have Baines as an example here and hear you coach them on this regard, because that's the process actually to get started, to know what to do. So do we have any questions? Daniel, you're with us here. Do you have any comments or?
No, not at this point, but I'd like to have the possibility to maybe have a short chat with you, Shurat. Just figuring out what path to take, because it's an upcoming interest for us in terms of, I mean, yeah, different levels of questions, but I'll see if I manage. Is it only today or tomorrow the time that you're available for us, or?
It's tomorrow and the day after, actually.
Okay.
So just, I mean,
I can share you the booking schedule as well, so you can see if there is any slots that suit you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I do that.
Share it in the chat again. Yeah. Perfect. The link. So
nice. And you don't have to book the whole hour. You can just, if you
no,
need,
exactly. Yeah, of
you
course.
can book 30 minutes, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for this. We will go into the next section on exactly on time, actually. I saw Erika here some minutes ago. So just a big thanks to you, Shoshut, and have your individual sessions. Good luck with them, with the companies. And
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Meeting you again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. There's some, yeah, bra. Okay, welcome Erika. How are you?
Thank you. Just sitting down. So
Yeah, you're looking like a real podcaster.
yeah, I try to.
Perhaps you are.
No, I used to be. Then
Yeah.
I ran out of time, so I had to leave something behind.
Same for me. Same for me. Yeah. All right. So we got 3 companies with us here today in the session, and we're also recording it for the other ones who are not here. So just so you know. So I hand over to you to do it the way that you want to do it. So we promised the information security, at least.
Yeah.
From a broad perspective. Yeah.
And to the you who attend, you can interrupt and ask questions anytime. I promise you can't screw up my planning because I have ADHD, so I will manage to do it by myself. So.
We all have in this call, I think. Don't you think so, Dasha?
Everybody is on the spectrum.
Yeah, we are. But it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, information security. The reason I talk about this is because in a lot of compliance is about keeping track of your data. It doesn't matter if it's GDPR or if it's national legislation regarding data to patients or anything. Everything is about keep track of your data, know what you do with the data. And information security is the way to do it. Sometimes you have to look at the data as the company value, especially when you are a startup. It's a lot of value with the data, and you have to keep it safe just because it's in the best interest of the company. But for some regulations, for example, when you have health information about individuals, it's also taking care of the individual's privacy. So you have to look at the information security from two ways, both from the company and both for the individuals that have data at your company. Information security is about the right person should have the right information in the right time. Confidential, I'm having a hard time pronouncing hard words, but confidentiality means that it's only the right person that should access the data. And integrity means that the data should be correct. You shouldn't have old data, you shouldn't have data that you haven't confirmed that it is correct. You have to have the right information. And the information has to be available. It should be in the right time. This has always been, when we're communicating with each other over the years, we always have to stick to this, because in just an ordinary situation, my boyfriend needs to know if I get home to dinner tonight, and he needs to know it before I make dinner. The right person is my boyfriend. The information is, do I get home to dinner or not? And he needs to know it in the right time before he makes dinner, to know the right amount of food to make. And I choose if I just text my boyfriend and saying I'm coming home for dinner, or if I write it on Facebook so 2,000 more people can see that I'm coming home for dinner. That's up to me. I decide what my confidentiality is. But that's up to me. And the same for companies. You decide what you want to announce to the public and not. If it isn't a law saying that you can't. For example, if you're want to have a patent, you have to spread your information in a certain way. You're not allowed to just spread it however you want. If you want to follow GDPR, you have to be careful what you spread, and so on. For example, another situation, when I get to the hospital, the right persons is the ones who are giving me the care. So they should have the right information from me or from them who drives me to the hospital. And they have to have the information available before they make their decision about how to provide care for me. If I don't trust the people working at the hospital, I won't let them know the right information. I will keep some of the information back, and they don't know the amount of information they need to make the right decision. And this is very common when we have companies. If the individuals doesn't trust us, we don't get good information and we take bad decisions. It could be bad decisions in what the individual needs, the customer needs. It could be bad decision regarding that we don't think our business model is good, because but it could be good. and that the individuals doesn't trust us enough. So we have to think about this. What do they expect when they are buying the product or service from us? We have to give them that privacy, that confidentiality, so we get the information that we need to deliver a good product or service, or to have a good business model or make the business model work. I have also written traceability in this scheme, and if we have sensitive data, it's even more important that we have traceability, so we know who changed the data, who erased it, who added the data. Because when something happens, and it always does, we're human, so it's always, sometime it always will happen, then it's very important to know who did this. And it could be even more important to know who didn't do this. So, and it's not just to hang up to make a person the black sheep. It's about taking to know what went wrong. Did this person do it by purpose because it wanted to do it and to do something bad? Okay, then we have to get rid of that person. But it could also be that he or she did it just because they thought it was the right thing to do. They didn't know it, the more right thing to do. They did it as they thought they were supposed to do. Okay, then we just have to educate them to do better next time. And it could also be a pure mistake. And if it's a pure mistake, we have to find a solution that lessen the possibility for mistakes. That we, in GDPR, it's called privacy by default and privacy by design. We build a service or a product that limits the possibility to make a mistake. So that's why traceability is a very good thing to have, and in some legislations you have to have it. So when you build something, build it from the start with traceability. To make sure that it is only the right person that get the right information in the right time, we have to have 3 levels of security. Tech security is, or technical protection, is things like passwords, multi-factor authentication, it's firewalls, it's lock on doors, alarms in buildings, and those kind of things. It's technical solutions is mainly on place for protecting from outside threats. It could also be about who's authorized to which system and which fields, which data in the system as well. But it's mainly for the outside threat. Then we have legal security. We have laws that says that we have to behave in a certain way. We have policies that says how should we do, or you should have policies that instruct your employees to how to behave in certain situations, and instructions. How do we use this program or service, and what do we do with the data? When do we erase it, and so on? In which cases can we change the data, and so on? The legal security is everything that's written on a paper, but it doesn't matter which tech we have or what legal security we have. It all comes down to culture security in the end. It's my attitude and my behavior that decides if I protect the data we have or not. I decide if I have password 123 as a password, or if I forget to lock the door when I go home from the office, or if I talk loud about company secrets while doing my shopping at the supermarket. Or my favorite, when you live in Karlstad, you take the train from Stockholm in the afternoon and you travel first class, then you always pick up some company secrecy, or who's gonna be fired the next day or something like that. Because people talk when they sit on the train, or they have their screen on the computer open without any filter on it, and the information is out. I usually compare taking care of the information security or not taking care of the information security is like driving too fast with your car. When you drive too fast, you get where you want to be a few minutes earlier, and almost every time nothing bad happens at all. And when you doesn't take care of your information security, nothing happens. Nobody tries to hack my account, so nobody discovers that I have a really easy password, and nobody tries to break into my office, so they doesn't realize that I forgot to lock my door. And the one sitting beside me on the train doesn't care about what's on my computer screen. I don't understand how they can't. I always look. They're sitting there. You have to look. But nothing happens. But sometimes when you drive too fast with the car, you get a ticket from my former colleagues. I used to be a police officer. And you get a reprimand. And sometimes when you don't take care of the information security, there are someone that uses your password to get to your account and see information that you're allowed to see, but they are not, and perhaps pretend to be you and do things that are fraudulent or just misconduct. And the day I forget to lock my door, there are somebody trying to get in and realize the door is open, and they get the information that I usually have locked in. Or the person next to me at the train takes the information and use it. For example, that was actually on my way to Stockholm one morning. Some years ago, I worked at an IT company, and the person next to me happened to work for a competitor, and we were chasing the same customer. And he was doing their proposal for the customer, so I could see all their prices and what they were planning to present for the customer. So I sat and texted my boss, telling him all the prices that. So they lost that customer. So it happens. But sometimes when you drive too fast with a car, there are really big accidents. People get hurt. And for example, in Värmland, we had an incident 3 years ago, I think now, where we can call a health guidance number 1177, and when we call there, we don't end up at the healthcare system. We end up at a company. And one Sunday night, all the calls that were phoned in that night were up on the internet, free for everyone to listen at if you had the right URL address. That's a big incident.
Definitely, yeah.
It was, if I recall right, it was 770 calls that were up for everyone to listen. But
Yeah.
but it's I think it was only 5 persons calls that were actually listened to. Thanks to the traceability, we could see that nothing else had been listened to.
And not only sad for the, you know, the ones who are being exposed like this, but it also affects your brand and perhaps investor interest and valuations and stuff like that, and customer relationships and all kinds of stuff. So.
Yeah, I haven't checked, but I don't think that in that server and that IT firm that kept the servers, who did the who made the security disappear overnight, I don't think they exist anymore.
No.
It was a small firm with only 3 employees, so I think they went off the market pretty fast. Because everyone is in the business of trust.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you sell, it's trust. You have to have the trust from the customers. Yeah. I want to see if there's any questions before I give some more examples.
Yeah, let's see if there's any questions. I'm thinking about from a startup's perspective, when you're actually usually you build this from scratch. You know, you don't have any technical environment when you start, and you have to check which laws are. So would you say it's easier if you're thinking of this from the beginning and take for each thing that you do, you actually do it in a plan and you build on yeah, because what you usually do is you add on different stuffs as you go along, and then you realize that, oh, we need to have compliance with all this stuff, and then it's chaos, you know, and then you need to hire you or someone. Yeah. But
yeah,
is there a strategy that you could use to think of this from the beginning to actually get it right?
Yeah, use big established softwares. The main thing, it doesn't matter what you use, you have to control where you have the data. That's the main thing, and it doesn't matter in which aspect. If you don't can control who can see your data, you're screwed. Sooner or later, because investors will discover it when you raising for money later on. So keep track of where you put your data, and I recommend the large companies, because at least they are they have to think about their reputation. Of course, nobody's perfect, but they are better than a small firm that can't have the security that needed and don't have the knowledge, and perhaps use a service provider from another country and doesn't realize what they do with the data. So that's the main thing first. Know your tools, know where you keep the data, because then everything is easier after that. And every time you want to add a tool, for example, I use a lot of machine learning and AI in my company. Not much AI yet, but because I'm afraid of using AI, because I don't know where the data will be stored or used. So I only use AI from Microsoft. It's very limited, but then I know I can control my data. But I use machine learning a lot, and there also keeping track where is my data, who can access it, and so on. So every tool and everything you do, make sure you can control where the data ends up. And it could be something, for example, when I started my company, I used a CMS platform for my website, and then I had to go through, okay, which cookies are this website using? Not even my CMS platform provider could answer me what all the cookies did. So we had to put down hours to turn off cookies from the CMS platform. Because cookies were used in what way? I didn't know, and I have to know what the customer is getting to my website. I need to know where their personal data is ending up. So every tool you use, you have to make sure where does the data end up, because then you can, and you should also from the beginning have an IP architect or at least a map for yourself. How do data transfer from one place to another? So if I unplug this system, what happens with the rest? If I update here, which other system get the update, and so on. So you know how the data is traveled, because when you grow, you come to a situation where you have to change a system. Then it's very important to know which APIs or which data is actually affected by the change, because I often see that you have to change a system because you're growing, but you can't let go of the old one because it's so dependent. So know where the data is and how it's traveled between your tools and so on, and make sure that you only have the data you need, because a lot of data, when you have too much data, it's easy to make bad decisions. I often see that people gather data and doesn't understand that the adding of more data doesn't always mean adding more value. More data can lead to worse decision or worse. You make the wrong assumptions due to too much data. So know what you're using and why you're using it and why you need it. And then for a company value perspective, document it. And as I didn't listen to all the one from Shortcut said, but he probably said that you should write down every step you take during your development, because you need that in the MDR process, and that's really valuable for you in every way, not only to make it compliant with MDR. You can evaluate your development in much better way if you can track it, and you get more credibility among investors if you can present, I'm here because I've made these conscious decisions. And you also have easier to document according to GDPR and the Patient Security Act and so on.
It will save you money in the process there. Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like it's unnecessary because you go one road and then stops and take another one, and but it's better to have it.
Yeah. So I just want a question related to what we talked about, the servers here. So Microsoft and Amazon and these companies, because they have these servers all around the world. So what's the question as a startup that you should ask, or the questions that you should ask to be sure that even if the server is in Sweden, because they have their these large buildings with the servers in here, is it only in Sweden and so on? How can you be sure of this? Can you find
and you can't be sure, but unless you have defense secrets, you don't have to care. Just make sure that you choose a server in the EU, and that's enough. They have support that makes it accessible from the United States and other countries, but that's not the real problem. So as long as you choose the server within the European Union, that's enough.
All right.
Unless you're working with the defense industry, then you have to be more careful.
I have a follow-up question. Hi, Erika. It's Daniel from Loopily.
Hey.
Hi. So for the rest of you, actually, she did our assessment agreement and risk assessment and transfer impact assessment for our product. So yeah, she knows a bit about our company. But according to this, what you're saying now, most of or a lot of our municipalities actually says that it has to be in the EU or in Sweden, this data warehouse. But due to this new adequate protection level that was implemented on the 10th of July, how does that, I mean, we are trying to figure out through IMY if our product is, or our service is more, if it's possible for the municipalities to use our service, even though we have it on Google Cloud, which is in Ireland, but is owned by Google LCC in the United States. So how does this affect this new adequate protection level? How does that affect?
It makes it easier, but it's up to the municipalities to make their decision. There's what happened this summer is that the United States and European Union came to a new agreement that we should protect personal data, and companies in United States could apply to be on a approved list. For example, Google and Meta joined the list, but Snapchat didn't and LinkedIn didn't.
Okay.
So the companies can say, yeah, we want to make these they have to do some self-evaluations to be on the list. So that makes it not illegal to send personal data to the United States without approval from the individuals that's the data who owns the data.
Yeah.
But we still have the Cloud Act, another regulation that says that if there's an American company owning the warehouses, and that doesn't matter if the warehouse is in United States or in European Union, the American government in some cases can demand the right to see the data.
Yeah.
So then we, if we have sensitive data, we should have a good I forgot the English word for it. Cryptering. Could somebody help me?
Cryptate the data.
Cryptate the data. So if they give away our data, the government can't see it anyway. In that way, we can protect ourselves from Cloud Act. And if we don't have sensitive data, we don't have to cryptate it. So, so it makes it's easier for the municipalities to accept that it is an American provider, but the knowledge and the political, it's not, they don't look at these things, it's legal or illegal. They look at these things, what's ideology, more into a political perspective. Is it suitable for us or not? Or do we know enough to say it's legal or not? So it's hard to convince the municipalities to or to educate them to what's the real risk.
Yeah, because we did this Cloud Act with you and the risk assessments and so on, and it was very low risk and so on. But they are saying that since we have it and it's in this case in Google Cloud and it's owned by the United States company, they just say it's a yes or no. They don't even look at our TIA or the risk assessments that you have done. So, but what you're saying now is that since we have encrypted data and these companies that we are using are in that list, it should be more accessible for the municipalities, but it's still an ideological question for the municipalities, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think all regions and municipalities, they are waiting for a better instruction from the government on what's allowed and not.
Yeah.
And the government is not giving those advices. They're trying to give more and more, but since they know that it's a fair, if they go out and say it's not allowed to use Google, okay, how many? Then we have to turn down. We have to cut off about 30-40% of all.
But at the same time, it's quite different because it's a strange thing since the municipalities are using Microsoft Teams,
exactly,
which is an American company.
Problem.
So it's really strange how they could in one way say it's okay and in the next way say no, it's not okay. But we're just trying to find like a legal path to say that yes, you can, even though you have Amazon, Google Cloud, or Microsoft as your service provider in data warehousing. But yeah, I understand the issue completely. Okay, thank you.
It's sad to hear though that they don't understand, that they don't look at the situation.
They are afraid to make mistakes. So it's But thank you.
Yeah, great. So do you have
I just wanted to show you a video that makes it. I have to share it because I forgot to share with audio. The reason I showed this to you is because you have to be creative when you think about how to secure your data, because you can't. You have to pretend that it's more accessible than you think it is. I'm trying to. There we have it. Wait a minute. Oh. Better start YouTube without sharing it, because you never know what your ad is about and you can't say it's not about you. Have you all agreed to start paying for Facebook and Instagram?
No, I haven't. I haven't done the. I opened the app and they asked me to give an answer. I just close it down again. Teaching myself not to use Facebook.
Can I get a confirmation that the sound is on?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay.
You know, we've been hearing a lot about cybersecurity lately, largely because of what happened to Sony. Companies and individuals are more concerned about the safety and privacy of their information than ever. President Obama has unveiled a number of new proposals this week to crack down on hackers, and he plans to address this in the State of the Union speech on Tuesday. And it's great that the government is working on this, but the truth of the matter is we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. You know, the most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us their password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. So Jolie, 6, 12, 95.
Yes.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 4, 6, 8. And then Israel. It's only 3, but it's, you know, it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gemma, 1, 2, 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like what's a good Italian password?
My grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password.
This is the reason we have multi-factor authentication nowadays, but people are still stupid. We have frauds where in Sweden we have bank ID to confirm my identity. We have a lot of frauds where bad guys get access to that app, either by calling the user or actually physical access to it. So nothing is, if you only need to have time and resources and you will hack everything. That's, you just have to find a reasonable level. If you don't have multi-factor authentication, get it, because here they use 3 psychological factors to convince them to talk. First of all, we like to talk about ourselves. If we're shy, it doesn't matter. We like to talk about ourselves. That's how you succeed on the dating market. You let the date talk a lot about themselves and they will like you. And passwords is often something connected to ourselves. And the second one was, it was a girl who asked, we are less suspicious of girls. When I used and when I worked as a police officer, I walked into bars and got information from criminals about how they made their crime. They're not happy about me afterwards. I can't understand why. And so we are less suspicious against girls. And the third, or one more psychological factor was it was a huge camera. If they had stood there with their iPhone filming, it wouldn't have the same effect. It was a large camera. The people standing in front of it wanted to be shown on TV. They wanted to present themselves in the best way. And they answered the question and didn't think about the last question. That's why you have to have media practice to present good when you have a lot of media interviews. So you can always get information if you want. We just have to have a reasonable level. But I want to show you this guy. He said something very important. He said, it's good enough for me. Like it was his information he's securing. On my mail, it's not my information there. It's information about everyone who has mailed me, mainly. Of course, my app books as well, but it's mainly information about other people. My Facebook, it's about everyone else. The groups I'm in, it's information about all the other people's what they have written and all their information. And we have a lot of apps saying that they want to access our contact list in our phone. That's not my information. It's the people in my phone information. So it's not our information we're protecting. It's our friends and co-workers and business partners information that we protect. And we have to remember that. And this guy actually knows I'm talking about him, because when I had this presentation a year or showed this at a presentation a year ago, somebody said, I know him. He has changed his passwords, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
so what do you think about these password protectors, software?
Yeah, and I like them. I couldn't live without it.
Me too.
LastPass and OnePassword, I think the two most common are.
Yeah.
And if something happens, then you know it's happened. Then you get an alert. So I like it because then it's easy to have a lot of different passwords. Because one common thing is that we use a password on an important site, and then we reuse the password on other sites, and that's how they access it. But the main thing, how if you have discovered that people in your surroundings getting their Facebook pages hacked, it's mainly because they've written post answers things like your father's birthday, your favorite color, your first animal. There are some lists that usually goes around on Facebook from time to time with not essential the information, but some people think it's fun to share about my first pet's name and my mother's maiden name and so on. If we look at these questions, it's the same questions as security questions when you have to if you lost your password for Hotmail or Gmail and so on.
Yeah.
It's the answers. So the people who are posting these things on Facebook, they get their Hotmail or Gmail hacked, and then they go through them into Facebook. and try to get money from their friends. So it's not that advanced technology to hack a Facebook page, because they have often written this answer to the security questions out. So use good protection, and also when you start to handle people data, make sure that they are others can't access their data, and that's also far too common. We have had insurance companies where you can see other people's insurances. Not good.
Not good.
We had a telephone company some years ago where you could see the specifications of other people's calls, who they've called and how long and so on.
Just a question from a startup perspective here. Do you have some kind of a checklist of the most important things that you really need to think about in the beginning? Because you talked about the technical platform, the laws and legal, and so on. But is there a layer after that? With to check these things? Do you have some?
Yeah, it's connected to the security, how you can access the data, because when you have decided we have the data here, the data travels in to these other services and tools, then which one can access it, and what should they access? For example, should the customer, should they access all their data or just part of it? It could be easier if they access all the data, but then it could be more risky. It could, if they being hacked. So you have to weigh those against each other, who can access it as well.
So based on what you're doing, you could start to see what kinds of software are we using, or free party products, or so on, and which data does this use, and do we use in this crowd, and think about that, and where is this actually based on servers and so on, and lots of details in this, and of course that's and how do we work with this as individuals, and a password protector is of course a really good thing. If you're having lots of employees, you can also have a company account, so that you share some. If you have some, that's not uncommon that you have some logins that you share within the companies for you share the same service for some reason, and you can have that available for everybody and easily change it without informing anyone, and you can also have your individual passwords on different accounts, and the company can actually pay for this. So I have this for my family. It's really good, because they used to ask me all the time about the kids' passwords to all this Minecraft and shit. But now they can access it by themselves and change them by themselves if they want to. So it's the same thing. So these are at least some of the basics. Is there, of course, many more details in this, but is there something really important thing that you need?
The transparency. I would like to add. It's easy. The laws demands you to be transparent to a patient or to an individual, depending which data you're gathering. And if you have done a good job documenting your process and knowing where you have the data and how it's going, and it's easier to write a good information for the customers. So that's also one benefit of doing the work correctly from the beginning. It's easier to be transparent, and by being transparent, you can gain more trust. Because if I, as an individual, try to read what Google do with my data, it's impossible to know. So I know I can't trust Google, and then I just have to accept I can't trust Google. But then I don't use Google for that much. It's different when you have Google as a company, of course, but as a private person. Yeah. So you have to, you have to really think about the trust.
Yeah. I got this question the other day here about, you know, cookies. You talked a little bit about cookies, that there are some, you know, the free party services that you can use. I can't remember the name of this service, but there are perhaps many.
There are hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. Yeah. So, and you just hang it on your web page, and it will solve everything if you just make the correct settings there. Is that a good way of doing it, do you think? Or is it worth paying for that monthly fee?
First, you have to think of what cookies do I need?
Yeah.
Do I really need to gather anything else but necessary cookies? Because if you only use as necessary cookies, you don't have to have a information. You don't have to have a consent mechanism. So first of all, think of, okay, my web page. What do I need it for? Okay, I need it for marketing. Okay, do I need to gather data for marketing? Perhaps not. Perhaps you have to, but make conscious decisions. What do you need? What kind of information do you need from the visitor on your website? Could you have anonymous statistic, or do you want to know which page they come from before they landed on your page? Both can be okay, as long as you know what you want and can be transparent about it. And you probably, if you have a login page, then you have to have a session cookie. Yeah, then that's okay. But do you have to know exactly how many minutes they were on which page? Yeah. So the most important thing is what kind of data do I want? Do I need to get a good service or product? So then you can decide which tools you need to support this. But if you want to have a lot of cookies on your website, because you want to do a lot of tracking and so on, then you should have a CMP. Or CMP.
Yeah. What's it? Cookie. What's
cookie bot.
Cookie.
A cookie bot is, for example, that's one CMP solution. CMP stands for consent mechanism, I think. Not example, because if we have cookies on a web page that are not necessary, we always have to have a consent from the visitor. But we got a new the supervising board in Sweden have made have let us know what we need in that mechanism, and it's far easier than it used to be. So something has been easier to comply with, at least.
Okay. So what supervision board? What's the name in Sweden?
PTS.
Aha. Okay. Oh, all right. Yeah. Woo. Something is getting easier. We're as company owners, we're
easier compared to what was thought.
Yeah.
Because we have an international organization called NOIB, None of Your Business. They are saying that it has to be a much more information.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I think it's very important as a startup to follow this field and see changes, and because this is also constantly changing, of course, like the ones with the American servers and so on. Some customers are still having the same processes as before we met. They don't know that it has changed, so you have to inform your customers about that. Yeah. So my last question for you is I don't know how relevant it is, but so much has changed last year within the AI field, this getting to the consumers. So people are using these like ChatGPT and so on, perhaps with a personal account, but they use it for company purposes. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my message to my customers has been informing their employees that if they write things in ChatGPT or in Google Search for that matter, or Google Translate, they are exposing company secrets. So they're only allowed to write things that are not a company secret in any way, or information that could say something about a customer or a customer relationship. So that's the main thing, because if we put in data there, we have lost the traceability of it. Especially when you use a personal account, then I don't know all these tools. There could be tools that secures the company data, but then the problem is, how was the tool taught or programmed? It has to have some data in themselves from the beginning, and somebody owns that data from the beginning. So it's tricky.
Yeah, definitely.
But the most important thing is information security regarding to company secrets and personal data. Don't put that into.
Yeah.
And I
thank you for that. I think it's something that many people are thinking about right now. So yeah, great. All right. Yeah, this has been a really good session with you, and thank you so much. And as we've said, it is possible to book you on a individual hour. And we do that on the integrity.se webpage.
Yeah, exactly. We have a contact us there and book meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't have to mail and see which time I'm available.
Yeah, and which service should they choose? Because
it doesn't matter as long as they can choose me.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, choose Erika, and 1 hour to be clear with that. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Thank you very much for this, and have a great day. Yeah.
Thank you.
See you soon again. Yeah.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.